Namaste, welcome. Today we're going to tackle chronic lower back pain. If you've ever experienced chronic pain, it can truly be debilitating and affect all areas of your life. And low back pain is probably one of the most common that I've experienced in my studio working with practitioners. So for this practice today, it's going to be very grounded. We're going to work on strengthening some muscles that can help support the pelvis, the low back, and then stretching what needs to be stretched. So you need a yoga block if you have that handy, because we'll use this to elevate our hips and bridge. And you also need a myofascial ball. I'm going to do a foot release, so if you have a smaller ball or a golf ball size, that would be great. And then a normal lacrosse size or rad myofascial ball. So I'm putting those things off to the side where they're accessible. Go ahead and join me lying on your back. So finding a position that's comfortable, and let's go ahead and bend our knees right away. So taking any undue pressure off of the low back. This is a great place for you to find this Shavasana shape if you're experiencing low back pain, because elongating the legs may not always be comfortable. So just begin with me by taking a few grounding breaths, maybe an inhale through the nose and an audible exhale, sigh it out. Then if possible, sealing the lips. We're going to start with some diaphragmatic breath. So breathing in through the nose, drawing the breath down like a sieve, like a funnel, allowing the belly to expand and rise, feeling the breath reach into the side ribs and the back ribs. And then as you exhale, slowly releasing the breath as if you were letting air out of a balloon. Continuing with this deep diaphragmatic breath, drawing the breath in through the nose, allowing the belly to expand, and exhaling through the nose, allowing the breath to soften, allowing the belly to soften. Just a few more rounds of breath like this, closing the eyes, if that feels appropriate for you today for your practice. Fantastic. One more full deep breath in and deep breath out. Nice. Go ahead and let the hands come down by the sides. I just want to work a little pelvic tilt and a release. So we're going to come, this is a neutral pelvis that you're having right now, so just the way that the pelvis sits naturally. And then I want you to engage the abdominal muscles. Think of pulling the navel in and just try to flatten that space out to whatever degree you feel comfortable with, that flatten that space out of the low back and then release. So we're just working to a posterior tilt, tilting our pelvis backwards and then back into neutral. Just working through these two postures. Maybe you layer the breath on as you inhale, drawing the navel in, finding that posterior tilt, and then exhale, softening, allowing that natural curve to come back to the lumbar spine. Just a few more like this. Really nice. So a couple of things that are important. The deepest abdominal layer is the transverse abdominal layer, and it kind of wraps around the body like a girdle. So you imagine that it's our support system for our abdomen, but also for our spine. So one more of these little pelvic tilts. And release. Nice. And then you're going to take your two peace fingers, find the two bony points in the front of your hips, and come just inside of that. All right. So finding that, I want you to bring the right leg into tabletop. Notice if you feel a little bit of engagement, a little pressure of the muscle outward into your fingers. And then if you can, bring the left leg into tabletop, maintaining that connection. So knees over hips. Take a breath here, feel some groundiness through the ribs, and just really gently, you're gonna allow those left toes to come toward the floor and pull it back in, keeping that engagement of that deepest abdominal layer. Left toes come toward the floor and bring it back into center. All right, so depending on your engagement or your strength of your transverse abdominis, then it depends on how far you can allow those legs to extend. So if you have some chronic back pain and you're doing that for this purpose, just a few inches is maybe just enough. Finding that where you're not getting the flickering, right? So that you have that constant pressure of that deepest, most supportive abdominal layer as you begin to move the limbs in space. Nice. We're here for just another few seconds. Finding that engagement. Maybe one side you feel maybe is flickering. So trying to reduce or limit that flickering, even making the moves even smaller so that you feel that constant pressure or that pushback, that engagement of the transverse abdominal layer. Nice. Last couple. Beautiful. Let's go ahead and take a happy baby and release there. Take a big, deep diaphragmatic breath in through the nose and out. Beautiful job. Come back into the bridge position, so bringing the feet down and the knees extending above the ankles. This time we're going to goalpost the arms, or robot the arms, so that the back of the arms are on the floor. We're going to tuck the pelvis as we press down to the feet and come into bridge. So not like the really high that we kind of recall this yogi bridge, but a bridge where you still feel the ribs grounded, and we're going to start to work on engaging that posterior chain, the back of the leg. So a little hack here, let's go ahead and lift the toes and really dig the heels down and back. So feeling the hamstrings kick on. So again, goal here is we're gonna start to walk the legs right and left and not having that pelvis switch side to side. All right, so that we start to feel all the way up into glute max, our highest glute muscle, right? That starts to kick in to help support, right? So the glutes are super important. They support the base of our spine, right? And it's also a muscle that we find that we lose the ability to activate, as well as transverse abdominis. So, we've got some factors running against us when we deal with chronic low back pain. Plus, if you've ever had chronic pain or even an acute injury, your body shuts down to protect itself. So it's hard to get those muscles back on board. Good. Try a few maybe with the feet flat, not moving that pelvis at all, rocking it from side to side. Just about another 10 seconds here. If you need to take a break, always do that. Nice. Keeping everything engaged. Just those little glute bridge walks. Last 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Nice. Lower down. Hug the knees into the chest. Rock around on that sacrum. That could feel pretty good. Just relaxing. Also taking maybe little circles with the knees in one direction, feeling that massage, and then taking it the other direction. Nice. We're going to take just a simple figure 4 stretch, crossing the right ankle over the left thigh, reaching for the back of the left hamstring, and just finding that little glute release. So it doesn't have to be the deepest stretch yet, but that we start to feel a little sensation through the outer right thigh and hip. Breathing in here and breathing out. God, you're welcome to take as much or as little through this stretch as you find necessary in your body today. Nice. We'll just take another full breath here, softening as much of the rest of the body as you can, and release. And we'll just simply switch sides. So left ankle will cross over the right thigh. Again, bending the left knee in toward the chest, reaching for a piece of that left thigh, noticing the difference between the two hips, but just looking for sensation on that outer left thigh. Really nice. So the other part, or just another part of kind of that low back triangle, if you will, are the hip flexors. So we tend to have both tight and weak hip flexors through the front of our bodies, and this happens from our lifestyle. We are driving in the car so much or sitting at a desk. All right, so we're gonna work on strengthening the hip flexors in an elongated position. All right, so go ahead and release that stretch. Grab the yoga block if it's close. We're gonna use it on just the lowest setting, so the most supportive. Pressing the feet down onto the earth. Go ahead and lift the hips slightly and place the block right there underneath the sacrum. So there shouldn't be any pinching and you're not on the soft tissue of your spine, but you're right on that flat bony part that supports yourself kind of on the backside, right where the sacrum is. All right, so we're gonna take the right knee into chest and just take a 10-finger grasp and then hug the knee in. Just feeling that stretch, the hip flexors engage as the knee comes toward the body. Nice, and then go ahead and release that. We'll do the same thing second side. Bring the left knee into the chest. Good, feel that kind of pinching sensation through the front of the left hip. Good, take another breath. Really nice, and release. All right, so we practice those pelvic tilts. It's gonna be super important here. So we wanna position the pelvis in a little bit of that posterior tilt, and you're gonna feel those transverse abdominal muscles engage. So hands can come on the pelvis, feel a little bit of that posterior tilt. Nice, bring the right knee into the chest, and then extend the left leg long. So what we're gonna look for in that posterior tilt of the pelvis and in transverse abdominals engaged, so my fingers are there, or you're gonna extend that left leg till you start to feel a little stretching sensation, keeping the right knee hugged in, maintaining that beautiful breath. Once you've found kind of the end of that, or where you feel that left hip flexor start to catch, then you're going to find little tiny pulses there. So trying to maintain that nice posterior tilt in the pelvis, the engagement of our deepest abdominal layers, and then also working on strengthening and lengthening our hip flexors. Nice. So feeling that here, we're about 30 seconds per side, about halfway through. Go ahead and take a big deep breath in and out. So depending on your body, it may look a lot different than mine. I mean, you may be way further down or even closer up here, and it's all okay. Nice, last 5, 4, 3, 2, nice. Knees come into chest, relax, and place the feet flat down on the floor. Go ahead and release the pelvis. Take a full deep breath in and a deep breath out. So we're gonna find that posterior tilt again. So you feel just like we practiced at the beginning, and we're gonna bring our left knee into chest. Feeling that right inside the bony hip joints, you feel the transverse abdominal layer kick on. Right leg's gonna extend. Same action as before, extending the right leg away from the body in an elongated state till you feel that catch of the right hip flexor. You're gonna feel it start to kind of kick in to hold that leg, and then from there, we're gonna take tiny pulses. Maintaining that posterior tilt, maintaining the grounding of the rib cage, that pulling in of the navel in and up, feeling that transverse abdominal layer with no flickering engaged. So if you need to take a break, by all means, right, we're working on building strength through these muscles that tend to be both tight and weak. Breathing here. You're about halfway through, another 15 seconds. Nice. Finding that beautiful engagement, just that tiny little pulse. God, last 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Nice, knees into chest, full deep breath. Breath out, feet come flat onto the floor. Maybe slide that right leg long if it feels good, feeling that stretch. If that feels appropriate, maybe you want to extend the left leg and do both limbs at the same time, releasing the hands to the floor or one leg at a time, taking a deep breath in and out. Really nice. Beautiful work. Hopefully you felt something happening or changing in the body. Go ahead and bring the knees in one at a time. Feet come flat, gentle little lift of the hips to lower down. Taking the block off to the side. Nice. Go ahead and rock over to one side to come up to seated. We're gonna work a little myofascial release for the glutes. All right, so taking our myofascial ball, we talked about that sacrum, right? So that's the bony kind of triangle right here. We're gonna take 2 positions with the myofascial ball. One will be to roll down the edge or the connection as you imagine this medial connection of our glutes into our sacrum. And the other will be, if you make a kind of an L shape with the hands, place it right on the hip, this glute medius, right? This one kind of upper, smaller supportive muscle here on the outer part of the hip. So we're gonna work through both positions. Rolling down, I'm gonna take the ball underneath the right side of my hip, and I'm gonna find that kind of connection between my glute and the sacrum. All right, so it starts up kind of at that top toward the waistband of your pants, and just relaxing here. So remember, with myofascial release, we're not looking for a pain sensation or discomfort of anything above a 7 out of 10, but something that you can kind of settle with. And we're actually just gonna draw a line of the myofascial ball all the way down the sacrum. Just kind of inching the body, allowing gravity to take hold, relaxing through that connection. Imagine that we're putting little gentle pressure on the tissue, and our fascia is such an intelligent framework of connective tissue. And we're pressing out, right, this hydration. And then when we relieve the pressure from a trigger point or from a sensitive spot, we're kind of flooding that area of tissue with hydration. Good, slowly inching all the way down along that bony sacrum area, reaching kind of where you kind of roll off, or you imagine you'd be kind of reaching toward the tailbone area. And then we're just going to simply inch it back up, drawing that vertical line up the connection of the glute. All right, second spot will be somewhere along the side. I'm still working that right hip, so I'm just going to lean my body to the right, finding a spot. Imagine if I'm putting my kind of L-shaped hand on my hip, anywhere where I'm going to find sensation. It may be super sensitive for you. You may not feel a whole lot. It just depends, right? Both are okay. But we're looking in that general area that you could palpate with your thumb, making that L-shaped grip on the side of your hip. So just finding a spot that feels like it needs a little bit of love and attention. Good, and then slowing the breath, finding that deep diaphragmatic breath that we established at the beginning of our practice. And then if you're wanting a little more, there's always the option to lift and lower that affected leg, right? So we're just increasing the load, just like a pendulum as we lift, small little lifts and lowers. And we're just gonna find one more spot here on the outer part of the right hip and glute, maybe even just moving an inch one way or another. And if you've done my yoga for hips, we've really pay a lot of attention to the gluteus medius, right? So it tends to be one of those weaker and tighter muscles. I really find it fascinating that muscles can be both weak and tight at the same time, but I guess it makes sense. If they're tight and they're constricted, right, they're also not getting appropriate strength and elongation. Good, taking another full breath. If you added that movement and prefer to add that on, please do so. Really nice. Go ahead and roll off of the ball, place it off to the side, and just extend the legs out into a Shavasana-like shape if that feels comfortable. I just want you to pay special attention to the right hip and leg and notice if you feel any difference. It might feel heavier or even a little longer than the leg that we haven't worked or the glute that we haven't worked. It may even feel like the right leg is turned down even more. Nice, bringing the knees in, placing the feet flat. We're gonna work on that sacrum line again on the left side of the hip. So finding that kind of connection, that medial border between the glutes and the sacrum. Again, we're just gonna inch down that line, finding that border of glutes and sacrum, drawing that vertical line and just inching our body backwards. Relaxing through the breath, taking every opportunity to, if you find a spot or discover an area that needs a little bit more love, to taking as much time as you need. Maybe skimming over some of the less tense muscles or less tense areas and focusing on the ones that might need a little more attention. Good, slowly breathing in and out. Making your way all the way down till you feel like you're kind of rolling off that cliff of the bony part along the backside. And then we'll simply just draw that line back up, inching our way back up that connective tissue. Nice. Again, we're going to work on the side hip. So I'm going to roll off to my left side, working that left glute, meads, finding an area of tension somewhere that I can explore in my own body. Rolling toward. As you notice, I'm putting a lot more pressure on the left side, the hip that I'm working. Taking a few slow, deep breaths. I think what's amazing about myofascial release is that we can really start to affect the tissue and see immediate changes, right? Obviously, the longevity of the change is going to be quite short unless it's something that you commit to do on a daily basis. But even just that instantaneous change. If you added movement and would like to lift and lower the leg, go ahead and do so, finding that increase of pressure. And then we're just going to explore one more little spot somewhere along that outer left glute. God, slowly breathing. Again, if you choose to add that little lift of the leg, go ahead and do so. Just a few inches off the earth. Really nice. Taking another big deep breath in and big deep breath out. Go ahead and roll off the myofascial ball. Place it off to the side for now and extend the legs out, finding that Shavasana-like shape again. Notice if the legs feel more symmetrical, feel a little closer to the earth. And then when you're ready, come along with me, roll over onto a side and press up to seated. We're gonna go ahead and actually do some myofascial release for the feet. I found that sometimes our problems extend with low back pain from the top down and are affected by our posture, and sometimes it comes from the bottom up, right? So our feet that we're standing on all the time, every day, can tend to be not as well loved, right? All right, so I've got my small blue rad myofascial ball. I'm gonna place the ball underneath my left foot, and I'm just gonna imagine putting a little pressure like I'm squishing out or kneading kind of dough on the bottom of my left foot. Rolling the ball up and down, just like I'm kind of squeezing the water out. Nice. And then I want you to place the ball of the left foot down, place the ball, turn to the side, just right kind of where that heel connects with the arch of the foot. I want you to slide that heel side to side. Notice that the tissues feel a little different, maybe a little kind of ropey or tendony or grippy even. Totally normal. Just rocking that ball side to side. Good, all right. And then we're gonna put pressure just in one direction. So we wanna think of having that lymphatic return come back to the heart. So I'll put pressure of the ball underneath the kind of ball of my foot, put pressure as I slide the foot to the heel and bring it back. So I'm only putting pressure in one direction, increasing that lymphatic return back up the leg to the heart. Nice, easier said than done. Kind of working that ball all around the left foot. Nice. One more little pass through or two. And then I want you to imagine like you're erasing a chalkboard and just do some light scribbling with the foot. All over. And we're really just telling the lymphatic system, the cleanup crew, to come in and clean up anything that we might have broken up. Nice. Go ahead and let that ball come off to the side. Place the feet down underneath the hips. Just stand for a moment, even close the eyes and notice. We worked the left leg, so maybe that left leg feels a little longer, or even forward of the right leg. Wonderful. Let's go ahead and do the right side. All right, same thing as we began as before. We're just gonna find a little gentle pressure as we move the ball like we're squishing out a sponge. All right, I'm working the ball up the foot to the heel and back again, just kind of exploring the tissue of the right foot. Nice, and then we're gonna stop again. I'll turn to this side. So I have the ball underneath like my heel, where the heel connects with the arch, and I'm just gonna rock side to side. All right, so noticing that kind of ropey, tendony texture of the tissues. Really nice. And then again, we're gonna do that lymphatic return. So pressure is just gonna go from the ball of the foot to the heel. God, and we just kind of slide and roll the ball back to the starting point. So I'm only putting pressure in one direction, signaling to the cleanup crew. Right, we want that lymphatic return back to the heart. Nice. So a few more little pass-throughs. Working your balance, of course. And now we're gonna do some light scribbling. So just all over the foot, as if you were erasing a chalkboard, just scribbling. Feeling the sensation, just really light all over the foot. Wonderful. And then setting that off to the side, placing the feet down symmetrically underneath the hip. Soften the eyes and just notice. Do the legs feel more symmetrical or even, maybe tingly and light? And there's always an opportunity in your own space to come back. If you feel like a foot needs a little bit more love, go ahead and do that. We're just gonna finish with a final stretch of the hip. So go ahead and lie down onto your back. Bending the knees, placing the feet flat on the floor. Go ahead and cross the right ankle over the left thigh. Hugging the left heel into the groin, scooting the hips to the center of the mat. Go ahead and take that shape to a spinal twist. Maybe the right foot touches the floor, and then using the left hand and left fingertips to catch the inner part of the right leg. Using that to kind of support as a kickstand. I want you to imagine breathing space into the outer right glute and the low back. Good, allowing the softening to take place through the right glute and sacrum. Allowing the sacrum to kind of ooze and soften, almost as it were going to drip off the spine. And taking another full breath in here and full breath out. Go ahead, taking that shape in through center. Bending the knees, placing the feet flat. Allow the hips to come to the center of the mat. Then crossing the left ankle over the right thigh. Tucking the right heel in. Just taking that spinal twist, maybe to the left toes. Reach all the way over to the right. And then kickstanding, bringing my right fingertips to catch the inner part of my left thigh. So that top leg is being supported like a kickstand with my right fingertips. I can scoot my hips more into the center of the mat, just feeling the stretching sensation through the outer left hip, glute, and low back. Finding that big, deep diaphragmatic breath. And allowing the body to soften on the exhale. Letting go of any gripping through the glutes, the low back. Allowing that space and healing to take place as there becomes a softening through the back and hips. Taking another full round of breath here. And breath out. Good, unraveling. Bringing the feet back in through center and the hips to the center. This time taking the feet wide to the edges of the mat so that you press the knees in together, feeling that stretching sensation on the sacrum, on the low back. So the knees are gently hugging in, allowing the feet to be wide. Maybe taking a few deep diaphragmatic breaths here as we start to end our time together. Relaxing as much as possible, even closing the eyes. Taking another full, deep diaphragmatic breath. And maybe an audible exhale. Sigh it out. allowing the knees to come to center, coming up onto one side to press up to a comfortable seated posture as we end our time together. Bringing the hands in prayer somewhere along the body, head, heart, or belly, and bowing forward to seal your practice. Namaste.